Hey everyone, welcome back to Lady Empire. I have such an amazing guest here with me tonight. I'm super excited for this conversation. Victoria, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ellie. It's a great pleasure to be here with you as well.
Awesome. So let's just dive right in. And I first want to start off with you telling us a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Let's just get right into it. All right. So childhood. So I was born in LA, and my mom and dad quickly, by the time I was 5, separated, got divorced, and we moved to Washington State. And I knew from the moment that we left LA that I would always go back. And but during childhood, I was that kid. Just imagine, just bring to mind the one that you guys all made fun of and had the big thick glasses and a patch over one eye and wore the dorkiest clothes. And I don't know, I don't know, they came up with every possible rhyme that you could come up with to rhyme with Vicky, and which was what I went by then. And I couldn't wait to grow up and get out of that whole like situation. My mom invited her sister's children, 3 cousins, to live with us. They all dropped out of high school, and they all sat upstairs in our attic doing drugs and smoking pot and cocaine and stuff. So if like people these days, it's like becoming legalized, which is kind of my worst nightmare, because I just did everything I could just to stay away from that. And so I just always knew that like the universe was looking out for me, and I just kept my mind just like, I got to get out of this place. I got to get out of this place. So it wasn't too, long after I graduated from high school that I moved to LA, back to LA, lived with my dad for a little while. Found out what he was all about. He was a womanizer, and he'd been married like 10 times. My mom was the fifth. And he already had like 10 kids before my mom
Oh my
got married to him, and
gosh.
she didn't even know. And so I did not grow up in the healthiest environment, let's just say. And thank God, when I was 18, and I was living with my dad, and obviously I was kind of dealing with some self-confidence issues after going through what I went through in school. She sent me this book called Total Self-Confidence, and this book like totally opened my eyes to all things hypnosis, law of attraction, goal achievement and setting, and all of that. And I just was applying it on the wrong things at the time, not the wrong things, but just the things that I was focused on at the time. I wanted to be a singer. Then I became a stockbroker for a little while. And and I had a very positive experience from that point forward, with my ups and downs. But in a nutshell, that's sort of like what it was like being Vicky, little Vicky, growing up.
Wow. Well, I will say your glasses tonight are very fashionable, and I would never make fun of those. I actually want those. Uh,
Thank you. You learn a few things about fashion as you as you like are able to take control of it. I knew what was fashionable. It's just we didn't have the funds when I was growing up. It was just like, shopping at secondhand store. So my mom did the best she could do. Everybody does, everybody does the best what they can do with their present level of awareness. And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to talk, you mentioned a little bit about hypnotherapy. So tell us about this practice and what it can really do for people. And just start with an overall summary. Maybe some listeners out there don't even know what hypnotherapy is or what it means. So tell us a little bit about this practice.
Absolutely. So, started learning about hypnotherapy before I even realized that that's what I was going to become eventually. I had no idea. But just kind of what it is it's tapping into the power of your subconscious mind. Because we have basically our conscious mind. And if you really think about these two words, I mean, it's conscious, like, so whatever you're consciously aware of is in your conscious mind, and whatever you're not consciously aware of is in your subconscious mind, which is everything. And it is the most powerful part of our mind. So what hypnosis does is it allows you through, a process of, putting yourself into a deep trance, which is, really a deep state of relaxation. And, putting yourself into that state, you now can get answers from your subconscious mind. You can ask questions of your subconscious mind. You can go back to times in your life and you can, change the story that you made up about certain events that were happening at that time. But on top of that, you can also reprogram it. And so, like, let's say people, it's going to be the first of the year, people are going to go on diets, try to quit smoking, become more motivated, whatever it is that, start that exercise program. But then, how 3 weeks later, you're back to your old ways again. And that's because of the programs that are in the subconscious mind. So with hypnosis, you can literally put new suggestions like affirmations in, and they actually stick and cause you to become a new person with the new patterns, new behaviors, and new ways of being.
Wow. So, when or how did you really develop a passion for hypnotherapy? When did you really discover this? Did you go through a session yourself, or tell us a little bit about how you stumbled upon hypnotherapy?
Yes. So, there were a couple of times that before I even knew that I was going to become a hypnotist, that I went to a hypnotherapist. The first time was to overcome my fear of needles because I was going for a dental thing and I was going to have to get a shot and all that. And it worked for a minute. And then it didn't work. And the reason why is because I didn't understand, nor did the hypnotherapist explain exactly how it was going to work. Because you can still talk yourself into or out of anything. And I swear to you, I left that office feeling so confident, so ready. If I would have just continued giving myself those suggestions, everything would have been fine. But instead of that, I'm pretty hard-headed, and I said, "I'm gonna see if I can bring that, fear back,"
Yeah.
And I just said, like, I literally, undid all of the programming. And so I just like people to understand that it's like, it's not magic. It does still require a little bit of reinforcement, after you come out of that. And so knowing that, I went back years later and I did overcome the fear of needles. Now, so fast forward to when I decided to become a hypnotherapist, I was a stockbroker at the time. So when I lived with my dad, that's what he did. He was a stockbroker. And so I kind of followed in his footsteps and I became a stockbroker. And so I did that for, about a half dozen years. I was really successful at it, but then I just kind of hit a point in my life where it just wasn't fun anymore. And I was just kind of like feeling, a lot of stress and anxiety. And so I went to this self-help seminar. And in the self-help seminar, it was like a 4-day thing. They hypnotized us and they had us, going through all these deep relaxation techniques and things like that. They didn't call it hypnosis, but that's exactly what they were doing. And it was like in that seminar, I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this. And so I didn't know exactly how to get qualified to do it. I didn't even know what it was. Like, I didn't even know if it was going to be visualizations or meditations. But what I really wanted to do was I didn't necessarily want to work like one-on-one in an office with people. My goal was I wanted to have a library of professional recordings that, like one of my little childhood fantasy things, like remember back when in the back of the magazines, they would say, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to
Yes.
right? And I wanted to be in the mail order business. I wanted people to like send me money and I would send them information.
Yeah.
And, so like that was like one of my little childhood fantasies. Another one of my childhood fantasies was I wanted to be a singer. And so when this came about, like I decided like I wanted to have my own website with all of these recordings that people could, send their self address, but instead they just put their credit card online.
Yeah. Same thing.
And but honestly, I mean, I wanted to help people to transform their lives in the comfort of their own home and through the help of these hypnosis recordings, because the seminar was one thing. I loved doing the seminar, but it was a lot of work, and not everybody has the time or the 500 or 1,000 or however much it is to go to a seminar. But everybody can come up with $20 to download a recording, and these days it's an app. And so that's what I became certified. And the next thing you know, I've got this website up. There was a couple of iterations, different name changes and things like that along the way. But before you knew it, I had a library of over 500 hypnosis recordings, and eventually became an author and all the other things.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about these recordings. If someone who's listening just went to go check these out or download these, what can they really expect when they go to listen to this? Is it, someone talking? Is it music? Like, tell us a little bit about the recordings.
Yeah. Okay. So the recordings and I tend to over the years, over 24 years now that I've been doing this, I started off like, I mean, with all the recordings for like every possible topic and niche you can possibly think of. So I have all those, but lately I've been gearing a little bit more toward the entrepreneurial spirit and mindset. And so when you download one of these recordings, they're usually about anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Back in the day, I did these long, luxurious 45-minute sessions, and I've found over time, people's attention spans, they just want quicker.
Right.
And I agree, and I want quicker too. So, you're going to take anywhere between, 15 to maybe 30 minutes, and you're going to hear me putting you into a deep state of relaxation, with my voice, with some beautiful background music. And, it's just going to, take a deep breath, relax, close your eyes, think about every piece of your part of your body relaxing, think about your heart, think about your breathing. And, I'm just going to talk about all of those things for a little while just to get you into that perfect state. And when you get into that perfect state, your mind opens. You're still awake. You're still hearing everything that I'm saying, but instead of rejecting a lot of the things that I'm going to say, like, you have the ability to create a six-figure business. You have the ability to make lots of money, your dream home, blah, 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 blah. All the things that I would be talking about on there, instead of your conscious mind, your critical factor, throwing those things out and saying, no, that's not true, I can't do that. You're going to be receiving that and accepting those suggestions and allowing them to come in and literally rewire the subconscious mind and gear you toward actually creating those things that I'm talking about. And then after the suggestion time is over, then I say, now in a moment, either you're going to fall asleep and drift off to sleep, or I'll have you like come back at the count of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're wide awake, feeling wonderful. And so a person that does that, they should Expect to listen to that, for a good period of time, like 21, 30 days, to really allow that change to become integrated into who they are.
Wow, that's so fascinating. And I'm so excited to look this up because I've always wanted to find some sort of meditation or, some sort of calming exercise. So I'm really excited to look at these sessions and test them out. That sounds awesome. And so we talked a little bit about the recordings. Tell us a little bit about what someone can expect going into a hypnosis session. I actually had a friend who went into one because she had ended on bad terms with her dad who passed away, and she wanted to go back and connect with him and rebuild that story and get some more information about the relationship that she had pushed under the rug for many years. And so she was trying to explain all this to me and I'm like, how do you do that? How are you going back and connecting? And she just loved it. She loved these sessions. And so talk to us a
Oh,
little bit about these hypnosis sessions and who can really benefit from something like this.
absolutely. So every single session, every single person is different, and the goals are different, and the sessions will look different. But just as a general rule of thumb, a person will come in or come on to Zoom as it is these days. So a lot of people, and I'm like I was way ahead of my time. I was doing Zoom sessions like since 2005. Only it wasn't Zoom; it was Skype or the phone.
Yeah.
And, so usually a person will come in, they'll talk about their either their goal or their problem that they're having, whatever it is that they're wanting to overcome. We'll take about 15 minutes or so to, really dive into that and just, ask them a lot of questions and ultimately find out like what is their ultimate goal? What does the ideal situation circumstance look like in that area? We'll do a few like suggestibility tests to find out like just where they are as far as how suggestible they are. And this will help me to determine like, does this person need a 5 minute induction process? Do they need a long, 10-minute induction process? And then as we're actually going into trance, there's a few little tests too that we do, like a eye closure test. So I'll have the person like they'll close their eyes and they'll just think about their eyes becoming so very relaxed that they find that they can't even open them. And it's all about how well you use your imagination, because how well you use your imagination is, your imagination is what's speaking to the subconscious mind and programming it. So the more you believe that like, okay, I can relax my eyelids so tightly shut that they will not open. And if you can imagine that and you give them a little try and it's like, whoa, they're actually like that tightly shut, then we know we have that person in a deep enough state. So the suggestions are really going to stick, that we really have the attention of the subconscious mind, that it's doing its job and it's listening to us. And so then we'll start to some sessions are where it's just strictly us telling the subconscious mind what we want it to do from this point forward. So the client's just relaxing and just receiving the suggestions. And then other times we'll do a little bit more like therapeutic work where it's a two-way conversation. So in that sense, that's usually where we'll do something called parts therapy, for example, where like, okay, there's a part of you that, really wants to succeed at your business, but then there's this other part of you that keeps getting in the way. And so we will talk to that person, we'll get answers. So, tell us about what it's like to be this part that always gets in your way. And so we'll actually have this part come to life. We'll have a conversation with it. We'll ask it, like, what do you need in order to help Ellie, succeed in her business and get to that next level. And so it's like a little dialogue that we have. And then ultimately, the two parts of you and the part that wants to succeed, the part that's been sabotaging, will sort of come to an agreement, a new agreement on what each are going to do. Usually you'll be doing something that's supporting that part and getting what it needs, because it's usually something inside of you. Maybe you're not taking care of yourself. Maybe, in your personal life, maybe you need to drink more water. Maybe you just need to, take that extra 15 minutes for yourself in the morning. Whatever it is, whatever we come to that part of you is needing in order for it to get out of your way and do its job. The two come together, and then we take you out of hypnosis and say, "What did you experience?" It's like, "Whoa, that is so cool. I really had this part of me that's, and they're able to describe exactly what it looked like, what it sounded like. It has its own energy, it has its own voice, and it really does some deep therapeutic work, in the subconscious mind, and people come away, and sometimes you still need a little reinforcement. So I might, make you a tape or something like that. I mean, they're not tapes anymore, but
Yeah.
still the old days, I started off
I
and they were
love it.
cassettes. But that's essentially what it looks like. And it's usually like it's usually like an hour. The session usually takes an hour to an hour and a half. Just if we're doing like the question and answer kind, it's usually like an hour and a half. And if we're just doing the straight suggestions, then it's usually an hour. And then I'll send you away with something to listen to. Maybe you'll come back for a reinforcement session. Sometimes there's a series of sessions. It just kind of depends on what we're working on.
This is so cool. And I love just even listening to you talk and see your passion about this. And I'm so excited to look at these recordings, like I said, and we'll even put the link out for our listeners too. This is super powerful and really, really cool. And I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your book. So, you're a best selling author of The Practical Law of Attraction. So, tell us a little bit about this book, why it got started, and who can really benefit from reading this book.
Absolutely. So, when I was first learning about all these things, hypnosis, meditation, law of attraction, all of that I was learning like at the same time. And so, like hypnosis and law of attraction, for me, in my mind, it became sort of synonymous. They became something that that you can't really separate them. And one has one purpose and another has another purpose, but really like the whole premise is that we're attracting based on our subconscious programming. And so if you believe in that, then you kind of have to believe that there is this thing called law of attraction. And so on social media, I sort of became known because I really started talking a lot about law of attraction on my YouTube channel and my Facebook lives, and everybody sort of started to know me as the person who talked about law of attraction. And one day I was invited to a hypnosis conference to do a pre-conference, and they wanted me to do a pre-conference on helping to certify people in law of attraction. I'm like, oh, well, if I was to I don't even have a curriculum.
Right.
I didn't even it's like I just, I know what I know, and I just kind of talk about these things, but I don't have anything like written and a curriculum and something to study. And so I started thinking, well, I guess maybe it's time to write that book. And so I wrote the book sort of to be a curriculum to help people to really, really understand how it works on a practical level, that anybody can get results with the law of attraction, that it doesn't require that you to believe in any kind of magical thinking, that you're doing all the work, and really just makes I just wanted to make it make complete sense to people without them having to understand all these other concepts about like attracting like, and all the energy and the vibration. And I barely talk about that But everything else that I talk about, it just makes complete sense on how to manifest using the law of attraction.
That's super cool. And you also have your own podcast as well, The Power of Your Mind. So, do you talk about these different topics with hypnotherapy and the law of attraction on your podcast as well? Or, who is really your audience for your podcast?
Yeah, so my audience, I feel, are, the entrepreneurial types. I have a lot of like hypnotherapists and people who meditate and coaches and, people from all different walks of life, people who are wanting to learn how to manifest things. And, the podcast really started out so innocently, so naively, so just like, it's just something that I said, "Oh, somebody else has one," a friend of mine, because I have this, studio, and, when I first met this friend, and she was starting a podcast, and she was starting a podcast about, these little mini meditations, and she wanted to come over and just kinda get a little acquainted with the whole recording thing because she was starting her podcast and wanted to see all my equipment and how to do the recordings. And so I brought her over, and then it just kind of hit me. It's like, well, she doesn't even know anything about recording. Like, I've been recording my whole life, and if she can start a podcast, then I can certainly start a podcast. And so it just kind of started there. And I took a Udemy course immediately on, like, okay, how do you start a podcast? And I took the course from beginning to end, just like maybe you, I don't know how you started, but
Yeah.
that was exactly what. There's a guy on there. It was just amazing. I can't even remember the class that I took, but it was really amazing. And he even went to during the training, he went to Machu Picchu. He talked about that on there. This is someplace I'd love to visit one day. And, so anyway, I just learned how, and I put up, a few episodes. Now, I will say this, my first 13 episodes took me like, what, 2 2 years, I think, to do my first 13 episodes because I was trying to do it all myself. Like,
Right.
literally, no VA, no guests, no co-host, no, I had to write the script, I had to do everything.
Yeah.
And it was like, even though seemed fun at first, it was like when you've gotta, like, post everything yourself, you gotta do all the technical stuff,
It's a
all the
lot.
editing, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot, and, so I only did, like, 13 and then, one day, a podcast company reached out to me, and it was crazy because, this gal, Christy Whitman, I she's a New York Times #1 bestselling author, and I had followed her. She's in the manifesting space, and I had followed her for years, and I literally within a week before this had happened, I keep a lot of my people that I follow in different folders in my Yahoo, and I just came across her folder, and then for whatever reason, and then a week later, this podcast company says, "We'd like to have Christy Whitman on your podcast. Would you accept?" Because I didn't ever have any guests before.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, that that's a great idea. Yes, of course." And so from that point on, we just started having guests on the podcast. And I went through that phase, and then in the last year or so, I started saying, I think now I'm going to switch it to a co-host. So I have a co-host now, and he asked me questions about me and manifesting and law of attraction. And I really get to now talk about the things that I want to talk about. But I mean, we've gotten to the point where we've had our best month ever was like over 40,000 downloads
Wow.
in 1 month. So hopefully by the end of now that we kind of know how to do that, now it's time to double in the next year. So at least double that for 2023 is going to be my goal.
Awesome. Well, you can for sure do it. And yeah, it's so funny thinking about how you even start a podcast and, what you're reading, where you're learning from. And it's, yeah, like you said, I literally Googled, how do you start a podcast? And ordering your microphone and the equipment and doing it all yourself. It's so funny. It's such a good process though too. And I just love it so much. And I love finding guests like you and like my previous guests that I've had on. It's just so much fun. And so just to close it out, where can our listeners find you on social media? Where can they see what you're working on and what you're doing?
Yeah, so my website is where like everything is all together. VictoriaMGallagher.com is my website. And the other thing that I'm, pretty proud of is my HypnoCloud app. So if you go to the app stores, you can download that. In the next couple of months, what I have been working on, it's been, this was supposed to be like a 3-month project. It's turned into almost a year now. But, I do have a new app. I'm hearing the name in my head, but I can't say it out loud yet.
Yeah.
And, but it's basically HypnoCloud 2.0. I mean, it's gonna be, like, super, super amazing. There's just so much more, that I can't even talk about because it's just in process, but looking to launch that new app around February. And that seems so close, but so far away at the same time. Just because I know what it takes to get all of these things accomplished, and but it's gonna be like it's gonna blow your mind. So
I love it. That's so
yeah.
exciting. I love that so much. And we'll be sure to add the links to the website and everything. But Victoria, thank you so much for sharing. This was such a fun topic and interview. And I think our listeners are going to find it fascinating as well. You taught us so much. So thank you for sharing everything.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. And yeah, you made this so great. And you've got a great podcast, great smile, great personality. And I wish you and all of your listeners a ton and abundance of success. And yeah, definitely I look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.